Let's start. So, hi everybody. Welcome to this new webinar from Outvise. Today the title is, the topic is new eHealth digitized customer-centric products. So we're going to talk about eHealth and about insurance. So today we have Josep Celaya. Hi Josep.
Hello.
Welcome to our webinar. So give me 3 minutes to introduce a bit the webinar, and then I hand over to you. Okay. So 1 second. So while this is in line of the different webinars that we have had during 2020, we had a lot of webinars talking about data and artificial intelligence. And today we want to talk about digital topics, right? And especially because of the situation that we are living now with COVID, we thought that eHealth might be pretty interesting for our audience. So that's why we choose this topic. Today we have Josep Celaya. Josep is a professional of more than 20 years experience. Pretty important in Mafre as a global head of transformation and open innovation, and a general manager in digital business for DKV. So maybe afterwards you can introduce you a bit yourself. Let me a bit introduce who is Outvise, and then we hand over to you and why we are doing that, right? So we always do that in our webinars. We are a platform for independent professionals specialized in the digital economy. So we offer top-notch, high-end consultants in TMT and digital. Pretty fast as a platform. We can supply with very specialized experts in 48 hours. And we have a global reach, right? We provide clients in Europe, in Africa, and Middle East. I think last year, for example, we invoiced more than 30 countries. With a very innovative approach, digital approach, where clients can directly surf and find their own profiles. And in the end, I will show a bit more the platform, but now I want to go quick so we can go directly to the eHealth topic. A network of scouts, which are around 50 scouts, which are doing basically final interviews to ensure that the quality and the knowledge, the hard skills, are the ones that you were expecting to have, right? The network, as of today, has more than 25,000 experts. In fact, we were reaching 30,000. Well, this I said, very fast response, 48 hours, and a headquarter in Barcelona. So, Josep, I hand over to you. Let's get into the eHealth topic. I will stop sharing my screen, and then you can tell us a bit about eHealth.
Okay. Pau, thank you very much for having me. Allow me to introduce myself briefly. I'm currently working as some digital business managing director in the DKV. Sorry. Okay, I have the presentation here. Now I can use my focus on you. Yeah, I'm currently digital business managing director of the DKV operation in Spain. I used to be global head of transformation of the Mafre Group, and I was member of the team that launched Verti. So essentially, my career has been about transformation, launch of new digital products in corporate environments, and the eternal fight between incumbents and challengers. I see many people in the audience that are working with me or working with for partner companies, so it's an honor to have you here listening to me. I hope to get your questions or your comments after the presentation. Some of them know very well this business, and well, I'm pretty sure they will give us some good opinions. I'm introducing myself because I think it's relevant in terms of what the discussion is going to be. So I'm essentially an executive in the transformation function in corporate, in big corporations. So now working in insurance, but many of the challenges we have in this business can be extrapolated easily to other businesses. So the presentation is about essentially how to launch, how to fight with incumbents and challenge the existing status quo. Let me tell you before starting that all the views I'm gonna present in this webinar are personal. So although, as I tell you, I'm qualified to do it because of my experience, I'm not conveying any message that represents my company, or I'm not going to talk specifically about the things we are doing in my company currently. It's more a contextual and industry overview and what the things are happening in health insurance. So what we're going to talk about, first of all, I'd like to touch what are the drivers of change in digital health that are very representative of, are at the heart of the transformation of the digital health insurance. I'm not a digital health expert. I'm a transformation expert. So what I'm gonna essentially talk is about how those changes in the technology can be used for transforming the industry, or what the impacts in the structure of the industry and the products we are commercializing. Secondly, I'd like to talk about the duality, the struggle between incumbents and challengers, which essentially is something that happens in any industry where there is an existing group of incumbents that are owning a market share, a relevant market share of the market. And the fourth point is about how technology can be used to transform the essence of the business model, and how some of the players are playing this game and essentially are managing to really change the whole structure of the industry. And finally, I would like to reflect about what is the gap that we have, especially in the incumbents, in the corporations, in order to tackle those changes, how to cope with those challenges. So first of all, what are the drivers of change in health insurance? I essentially summarize them in 4 points. First of all, the change in eHealth technology. As I tell you, I'm not an expert in eHealth technology, but it's very relevant for anyone that is doing business in health insurance to be very aware of what are the state of the art of the technologies that impact the delivery of health services in the whole world. Secondly, the changes in wellness technology. We will talk a little bit about the difference between one and the other. And third point is about platforms and the advent of full stack startups, transformation startups, and some companies, some incumbents that are labeled as quick learners. So those incumbents that are leading the digital transformation and essentially pushing towards the changes in the industries. And finally, a quick reflection, because I think there's a consensus about this one, and how COVID situation has been an accelerator of change in our business. So I'm replicating here some information that comes from CV Insights Global Healthcare Report that essentially has identified 7 drivers of change in health technology. For me, the most important thing so the most important message when you see this thing is essentially we're talking about medical grade technology. We are talking about the technology that essentially is really changing at a very professional level the delivery of services. So when we talk about this, we essentially can identify these 7 trends. First of all, the advent of artificial intelligence and how this is changing diagnosis in certain parts of the industry. Telehealth, the possibility.
Josep, sorry to interrupt. This is when you just with the image and or what an X-ray, they are able to foresee what kind of sickness you might have without the interaction of a human, right, doctor?
That's correct. This is the kind of technology you will see that in many cases is outperforming the ability of a professional to diagnose certain pathologies. Huh? Mm-hmm. So this is already happening. and this will transform the industry. So as they will transform the healthcare industry, it definitely will transform the health insurance industry, obviously. Telehealth is another good example with all that the impact that can have. Medical devices, trials, many companies that are focusing on certain pathologies or even certain target markets. Women's health is clearly one key trend for this, and mental health is another one. As you see, in this current situation, mental treatments are quickly evolving, so it can be implemented by telemedicine, for instance. And finally, all the industry that is behind, that is essentially packaging all those products, all those new technologies in health plans and benefits management. So this will include private healthcare companies and insurance companies as well. So a lot of things. The key message is a lot of relevant things are changing in this market. So let's be ready for a fundamental change in the whole industry. It will happen very soon, and as it happens in many other industries, it's quickly changing the technology. Sorry, I'm having certain problems with the message, with the image in Zoom, my background image in Zoom. So possibly my image is fuzzy. Really sorry. If you allow me to start for one moment, I will try to fix it. Okay, what I'm going to do is stop the video, and when we have the Q&A session, I will come back. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The second key trend is the evolution of wellness technology. And what is happening here is totally crazy. No? The difference between wellness technology and eHealth technology is on the grade of the solutions. So on the first, we are talking about medical grade solutions that are already approved, that in many cases are approved by FDA and other agencies as medical solutions, and they can be used by professionals in medical treatments. Wellness technology is another grade of solutions, in many cases gamified, with a lot of interesting stuff, possibly with certain uses in preventing pathologies, in improving your well-being, and so on, but not yet at the technical grade. The interesting thing what is happening is that both sets of technologies are converging quickly. So the best example is the Apple Watch. This is super well known already. The latest version of the Apple Watch is being recognized by the FDA as a device that is able to, under certain circumstances, collect electrocardiogram data for certain individuals. So it's a very limited research, but it's a breakthrough in terms of the development of this kind of technology.
It's medical approved, right? Because that's the key difference.
This one is medical approved. The other ones are not, but they are a wide range of useful solutions. So on the Oura Ring, which is something that is a super accurate device for measuring sleep, heart rate variability, body temperature, which is those are very relevant indicators for health and well-being, and it's super accurate. They are demonstrating that it is, and it's being promoted as a wellness device. It's not promoted as a medical grade device, but it's starting to quickly converge to something like it will be used by professional doctors. You have other technologies that are more colorful, more interesting, or curious, like the Muse headband. The Muse headband is essentially a technology, is a wearable that is able to measure your focus while you are meditating. When you go to the health kit in Apple, there are 4 pillars of health that are widely recognized by medical doctors and professionals as promoting your well-being and your health. One is the One is food, another one is sleep, sport and movement, and that's the fourth one, meditation or mindfulness. So this is a device, a wearable for mindfulness. It essentially teaches you how to meditate. There are certain, it's a fun device. So it's curious. It's a curious appliance, but it's starting to be something that is gaining in sophistication. You have the Peloton bike. I mean, everybody knows Peloton now. So this is another generation of devices that are at home and obviously point toward the same activity. The availability of these kind of devices is endless. You will find a lot of them in the markets right now. So the difference now is that they are quickly evolving to something that is really starting to perform. In many of those cases, the Apple Watch, the Aura, the Muse, or the Peloton bike, if you stick to the gamified habit that they are proposing, it's either meditation, sleep, sport, or whatever, you definitely will have some impact on your well-being and your health. And they are starting to measure this correctly. I remember when we were trying to package these products some years ago, these were toys. They do not have any kind of reliability on what they were measuring. That's not anymore like that. I brought you a very colorful example that is a very curious one. It's the smart plate. So this plate essentially is meant to measure the calories you eat on it. And well, I don't know, honestly, I don't know if it performs or not, if it delivers what they promise or not, but it's a very curious case. Well, the thing is, as I told you, is this is gaining momentum and it's gaining professionality and it's delivering a lot of value. I brought you here some examples. Universities and medical technology professionals are starting to evaluate the seriousness of these appliances. I will not bore you with all the details, but essentially the conclusion of this study says that for certain aspects, for certain attributes, variables, many of those devices are starting to perform. This is the key message. So wellness technology is quickly converging to eHealth technology. The other important and relevant change that is going on is how digital transformation is impacting and making the platform business model to be especially relevant for the industry. So a lot of digital platforms, the platform business model, are entering the industry, both upstream and downstream. So we will face, as companies, a situation in which some of those companies, especially the well-known companies like Google, Apple, Amazon, so on, will intermediate the relationship with the final customer and us. But we will find the digital platform business model downstream. So this will happen more and more. You find yourself, in many cases, challenged by full stack Insurtechs. So some companies are starting to use the technology and entering the digital arena and bringing you a digitally native value proposition, Alan, Oscar, and you will face as well the pressure of transformation in Insurtech. So the kind of companies that like Medictor, Neutrino, there are thousands of those companies come to add some value and some technology to your industry, but do not challenge essentially the status quo of the incumbents. So it's the kind of company that will partner with the incumbents. And finally, you have the quick learners. So those companies that coming from inside of the industry are able to develop digital value propositions that outperform the rest. Very notorious ones are Ping An or Vitality, that most of the professionals in the industry know, or Kaiser Permanente, that is a relatively traditional company, but with a very performant business model.
And Josep, and when you talk about digital platforms, you also think, for example, in Amazon?
Definitely. Upstream, companies, insurance companies, incumbents, and this will happen. We have parallel lives with our industries. So financial services is the same thing. Utilities will be similar things. Telcos will be similar things. We have parallel lives. So all those kinds of industries that are reaching certain level of maturity will face at certain moment of time the challenge of the digital platform business model. In most of the cases, this is having Google, Apple, Amazon, Facebook, and Microsoft in front of you, intermediating the relationship with the end customer. That is the most common situation. But do not lose perspective, because you can have it downstream. So for instance, in the case of health insurance company, we have platforms like Teladoc that essentially platformize certain services, and you will have them as a supplier. The important thing here is that the digital platform business model, it's transformational. It's only possible because of digital transformation. This is the key message. So in terms of industry structure, pay attention to the platform business model, pay attention to the challengers that come as full stack Insurtech, so the kind of companies that come to substitute incumbents in the business. Pay attention to transformation Insurtech, because you will be able to leverage a lot of value and challenge parts of the value chain. And finally, try to be one of the quick learners leading digital transformation. So being able to essentially transform and play offensive in the industry. And finally, I think there's a high degree of consensus of what of COVID-19 has supposed to anything digital. So there are lots of jokes in Twitter and so on, but I really like this one here on the right, because additionally to my job in DKV, I'm a professor in the IE business school. That is one of the leading business schools in Europe. So education, for instance, is at this point super challenged. So this picture, this joke comes from the moment where universities in the United States had to cancel face-to-face programs. So the programs were done through Zoom, like we are meeting right now. Right. But the tuition of the Harvard University were the same one. So someone was thinking that it's the most expensive streaming service in the world. I don't think it's like that, but definitely the situation is really challenging us. Yeah. And the good news for the ones that are working in health is that in society in general terms is starting to be really aware of the necessity of having a health insurance in a market like Spain. I think this is global. These numbers come from the Spanish market, but definitely you will find similar numbers everywhere in the world. So health insurance is increasing searches in Google. Those numbers come directly from Google, by the way. They have presented it to several people in the industry. So the increase in searches of health insurance in Spain is 25% during this year. That is massive for a mature industry. So maybe not for a new product, but in a mature industry, a plus 25% growth in internet measured as searches in Google is massive.
I guess that as an industry, you're used to almost flat growth, right? And 25 is just skyrocketing, right?
That's correct. 25% is it's a huge number for any industry that is making already certain numbers, but for a mature industry, it's skyrocket. Mm-hmm. Okay, the second thing is what is the struggle between incumbents and challengers? So the David and Goliath story in the digital era, in the digital age. There is new breed of players that are coming to the industry, and they are designing the product and the service for a digital customer and around the idea of digital in any single aspect of the business model. So the idea is we, the incumbents, usually struggle to transform our business model to become digital because we have assumed levels of complexity in our business system that are in some cases unaffordable and make us slow. We make it very well, we deliver, but we cannot assume all those levels of complexity. In front of that, you see players like Oscar. These are super well known, and many people that is in the audience know them very well, and possibly even better than me. But the good thing and the reflection I would like to make here is they come with money, they come with the ability to design for a digital client, and they come with a lot of focus on the business model and coherence in the way they design it. So if you design the business model for a certain type of client, your value proposition is very consistent, and this is where they are leading the way. Oscar is gamified health insurance.
It's much easier for them to really understand the target, the segment, right? The needs, and to design from scratch new process or new services.
Totally. I have another example later on the presentation, which is Lemonade. And I think it's by definition they're following that paradigm. So Oscar is super well known, 1.3 billion in accumulated funding, almost 500,000 customers, still losing money. That's truth. With a gamified relationship with the customer, makes super useful, super easy to use the application and even fun, which is something new for any kind of insurance. So super well known. Vitality, that comes from the South African insurer, that is Discovery. At a certain point, Discovery created Vitality as a project. And the idea is to gamify how people move and how people take care of themselves, in order to prevent pathologies and therefore lower the premium for health insurance and life insurance. So the idea was there. They started doing that, and by the time the business of Vitality is much bigger than the original company, and then they spun off the business of the company, and now a super well-known global company. Curious thing, some of my students come from many places in Europe, and some of them come from the United Kingdom. And professor, a good friend of mine and myself, we ask them always if they have a health insurance, and those that have one are 90% of the cases insured with Vitality. And when you ask them how many times they enter on the Vitality application by week, usually you get an answer like 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, in that range. That's authentically unheard for an incumbent. So you will never get anyone going to the application of a health insurance company unless they really need something specific, or in need of a doctor, or they have trouble with the policy or whatever. So that's totally unheard. This is the kind of relationship they are creating with their customers. Alan Assurance is a French player with a lot of funding, 136 million US dollars, that are recently entering the Spanish market. This is a B2, the slide is wrong, sorry. It's a B2B and B2B2C business model. So essentially, they aim companies and employees as employees benefits supplier. A good example of what the rules they are playing is, as I told you, Alan entered the market very recently. Actually, they launched a few weeks ago. If you look at the kind of management they are hiring, so the CEO and the marketing director do not come from the insurance industry. So one is the former general manager of Uber Eats in Spain, this gentleman, Manuel Pujol, and the other one is the former creative director of the Google agency in London. So it's totally, that gives you hints about the kind of business, the kind of game they want to play. So this is a totally game changer. There's no other incumbent. There's no single incumbent that do not have in the top management people with more than 10 years of experience in the industry. It's very unusual to find this kind of profiles in the industry. So those guys come to play with us with the roots of the digital economy.
And exactly, what would you say it's the main asset of these guys? So what skill they add to the table that somebody with a deep expertise in insurance does not have?
Let me use this slide to give you an answer on that. So if you see what is the advantages, so what are the relevant dimensions in the struggle between incumbents and challengers, and you try to essentially identify in which of those dimensions a challenger has advantage and in which ones an incumbent has advantage. So the legend is this one: in green, incumbent advantage; in red, challenger advantage. So, and the dimensions to me, and this is a mental model. I have to say this is not scientific at all. This is just a reflection I'm putting on the table and how I understand this competition. Those dimensions are the 6 ones. So the brand, the product, how well defined is the product, the price, the agility of the company, so the ability essentially to continuously evolve the value proposition and pivot the business model, so essentially change things when they are not working. The digital customer experience and the analog customer experience. By the analog customer experience, I put all the processes, all the interactions with the customer that cannot be performed on a digital environment. In an insurance, in a health insurance company, that's super clear. I mean, you cannot go to a doctor and the doctor cannot explore you if you're not face-to-face. And so in certain cases, you cannot avoid analog experiences.
Right.
And you don't want to avoid them. Let's face it, it's not about avoid them. So the only thing is that you can enrich those experiences with the digital technology. Well, those are the 6 dimensions.
Sorry to interrupt you. We are 10 minutes to go now, just to understand.
Okay, I will finish quickly. So if you see where the challenger has advantage or where the incumbent has advantage, in the case of the brand, in most of the cases, the incumbent is still has a reputation of trustworthiness, and that's very important in certain services. It's important in financial services, it's important in insurance, it's especially important in healthcare and in health insurance. So the brand of the incumbent is very valuable, but they will come to the industry and they will build that reputation. So at the moment, maybe there's an advantage, but it will tend to outgrow. And because they're able to explain their brands as something new, challenging the status quo, they're cool, so on, so on. Product price, agility, and digital user experience is definitely the name of the game for them. They define the product for a certain target, so they are unbeatable. When you do that, you really are able to focus very well your value proposition in a certain customer segment. So, price, obviously, if you are well defined and your business is defined in a way that only serve those interesting things, definitely they can have a lower price. Agility, obviously, and that's why they are hiring this kind of people, is the name of the game. So they are startups. Essentially, they play with the rules of startups. They want to be agile. They want to be quick and pivot the business model when necessary. Digital user experience for the same reason, and this is a consequence of the previous one. And finally, incumbents still have a huge advantage on anything that is analog, because for the incumbents, for the challengers, there's a lot of friction on those processes. This is what they struggle. Okay, the good things start to happen when you use the technology to redefine the business model. This picture is when the steam engine was invented. They use it with horse carriage. Most of the cases they will double decker. But the thing is that obviously in this situation, the people that is on the top of the double decker possibly is not having a lot of fun with the smoke of the steam engine. So the thing is you just put technology to existing processes and you don't redefine the business model, you don't change the paradigm, you're really not getting it. And here's when a new breed of companies, I was mentioning Lemonade, although this is not health insurance, are starting to redefine the business model. So you have very clear target segment in mind, and you start defining user experience for that target market. You play with agility, you do lean startup, and by lean startup, you don't talk about these guys about lean startup. So possibly you go to Lemonade and you talk about lean startup, they will think you were talking about the rice book that is 10 years or 15 years old, and they will look at you as a dinosaur. So this is the default mode for them. So it's not lean startup, it's how they operate. They don't know how to operate in another way. They have an intensive use of artificial intelligence in the definition of the business model, both for claims processing and customer care. And they have an aligned set of incentives. So Dan Ariely, the behavioral economics professor, is in the board of the company and is defining. I will not develop this, but it's very interesting how they have defined the product in a way that they try to align the incentives of the customer, so there's no fraud on the process. We don't have time for this now, but it's super interesting why defining the whole business model. And they are not the exception. I mean, there are many other exceptions. I brought just a handful of them, but and here in Europe, in the United States, everywhere in the world, you have examples in the financial services, neobanks like N26, Revolut, or Monzo. You have health insurance like Autonova. You have B2B P&C insurance like Element. You have many.
You should put also our logo, right? We are already finding consulting.
Okay, I will let you the advertising insertion at the end of the presentation. Okay, so they are not alone. The important thing here, and this is my reflection, is that in most of the cases, the leitmotif, what is common in them, is that digital breaks many trade-offs in the definition of the value proposition. So in the pre-digital world, customer needed a call center. So there was no explanation of a service company, a financial services company, an insurance company without a call center. That's not anymore true. So for certain profiles, a call center is something that is a pain in the neck. So avoiding it and having a chatbot is it's bliss. So it's not only something that is at the merit of the value proposition, but it's definitely something that enhances it. Same thing happens for mass customization. Same things happen for the advisory of complex products in certain areas. So do we need human interaction? In some cases, possibly yes, but less and less in this kind of processes. That's happening in life insurance, for instance, with a lot of application and startups that are developing the interaction with the customer in digital environments. So,
and I understand, Josep, that the Apples of these worlds, of the Amazons, they are somehow educating the market, right? You say
totally. I think that is the reason, essentially, that many target segments are changing the way in which products are understood. So let me give you an example. Direct debit is super common in many insurance products, but it's usually a source of fraud, bad debt, and travels in cancellation for many companies. But have you tried to contract any product of the digital era with direct debit? It doesn't work for Netflix. It doesn't work for Amazon. It doesn't work for many of those companies. So it's just a tiny example of how what you just have said is truth and is changing the world. But on the other hand, people expect the kind of user interaction that you have with those companies. So anything less than Amazon is unacceptable in e-commerce right now. So good luck if you want to build an e-commerce, because you have to match with someone that has a high level of sophistication in the way they deliver. So same thing happens for streaming, same thing starting to happen for financial services with the neobanks. The experience, the customer experience of a Revolut is amazing. It doesn't have a match in the Incumbents bank. So this is setting a high standard for digital experience. And finally, just the few last slides. What do we need Incumbents in order to cope with those challenges? So, well, first of all, we need methodologies. Well, we need two things. We need methodologies and talent. Methodologies, it's more a change of paradigm than methodologies. No? So if you see what is the huge difference between the way in which a startup develops something new and launch it to the market, between a startup or a traditional corporation, I think the draw is quite self-explanatory. In most of the cases, a startup spends a lot of time and a lot of effort in finding a viable business model, and when they have it, they execute and they escalate it. So this is the rule of the game. Any venture capitalist funding a startup will tell you something like this. But it's very curious, but it's really working and creating a lot of work in the startup arena does not happen most of the time in the corporate world. So you can call it waterfall, but then it doesn't really matter if it's waterfall project or not. The thing I'm questioning is the paradigm that is behind the way of doing this. So most of the time, the corporate teams believe that they know what to do, and they start building it. When they confront reality, they obviously get very frustrated and have many difficulties in pivoting the business model. So first thing we have to learn, corporate, is to play with the rules of the lean startup. And secondly, well, lean startup, but you have a full set of methodologies. This is already invented, so it's not nothing new. And in most of the cases, invented by companies that were in the market since the 80s. So this is not that new. What is new is that this is becoming very ubiquitous in the digital companies. Yeah, the same thing in agility, MVPs, and pilot loop, growth hacking, and so on, so on, so on. It doesn't really matter if you follow exactly those methodologies. So there are names, and behind the names there are philosophies. What is really relevant is the philosophy that is behind and how this is implemented in the company. How to do it if you are an incumbent? Okay. The first thing I think we need to understand is that the team we need to build a new business, most of the time is not the team you need to run that business. And most incumbents do not have the duality of the teams. Again, this is common sense, and it's commonly applied, for instance, in the venture capital industry. At a certain point, many venture capitalists know that changing the CEO, so changing the founders as CEO of the companies, in many cases is necessary, or at least complementing the management team in a way that the company can go from phase 1 to phase 2. That point of the time is usually the point of escalation. So that essentially divides those two moments of time, the model of the discover the variable model and the execution model. So it's very important that building a new business and running a business is totally different. In order to do that, it makes a lot of sense you bring external talent. You need to bring talent that is able to build new things and work with the people you have in the incumbent. And you need to bring the best in class in any aspect of the definition of the business model. But most of the time, you don't need them after that process of building of the initial moments. So that's very important because companies like any incumbent, general terms in many industries, need to get used to source talent in a temporary way, high class, super best in class, high level profiles, develop new things that is collaborative with the existing team, and then abandon the ship at a certain moment and let the team of the incumbent run the business. This for me is super important.
Sorry, let me do a bit of advertising. This fits very well with our vision that we have of the business, right? And how companies should manage talent in the future, right? With this agility, being very fast, pivoting if necessary, and not needing. They don't need to have all the skills in house, right? I think that's key, to be very fast.
We don't know, we don't have incumbents in general terms, and we don't need to have, we don't need to have the best in class in any single aspect of talent is scarce for this. So a data scientist that is going to stay in a business and operate it is not the same one that needs to come and do the architecture or the data approach at the early moments of the business model. So you need to consider that. That's true for data scientists, agile coaches, product owners, service designers, business developers. Many of those profiles are necessary only in one part of the business. So, and actually, in some of these aspects, the good ones get bored when they have already built the business. So we need to find, and this is the final message of my presentation, we need to find a way in which we can work with temporary teams that are a mixture of external and internal resources. So,
yeah, you finished, right?
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much. There was some Q&A. Would you mind if we just read it?
Sure. I'm gonna try to recover my camera. Sorry, apologies for the problem, but okay, go ahead. We can. So
it's Bernard Marshall. He's saying, I mean, there are several, and I wouldn't extend more than 10 minutes. So the first is the ethical bar around data changing through social media use, including players like Vitality? Is the ethical bar around data changing through social media use? I'm not sure if I understand exactly what they mean.
I'm not sure of understanding the question. Can you rephrase it, please?
Yeah, Bernard, if you can rephrase it, we'll then tackle afterwards. Jose Maria Guerrera. Hi, Josep. How should international incumbents solve gaps between national projects versus global initiative in order to create consistent eHealth ecosystems? Many incumbents work with local eHealth providers. Pepe Guerra at ABI Global Health.
Well, hi, Pepe. First of all, we will meet one of those days to have a coffee when I'm around in Barcelona. So yeah, totally. I mean, I think one of the spirit of our times is that many things cannot be done in-house. So my company, for instance, I mentioned I'm not talking on the name of my company right now, but my company is doing it notoriously, which produces positive externalities in any of the markets. And I think that's going to be more and more relevant. The cooperation between startups and incumbents is especially important, and it's super important for those transformational business models. So you're an insurance company, to cooperate with someone like Oscar is difficult because they come to your market and they will try to steal part of the market share, even though it's possible in some cases. But if you are someone like Medictor, or for instance, just to give an example of a good friend that is running a company in the industry, well, it's totally desirable for everybody that the incumbents, or the health insurance companies and the health suppliers, work with these kind of startups in order to transform the business. There's no other way.
Another one, Mohamed El Mola. As a transformation expert, how do you see the involvement of healthcare professionals that are not IT in accelerating the shift towards eHealth?
I didn't get this last part of the question. Paul.
Yeah, let's say as a transformation expert, how do you see the involvement of eHealth professionals, I guess, that are not coming from the area of IT, from technology, in accelerating the shift towards eHealth? So I assume how non-IT professionals can help the transformation.
One of the things I will challenge of this sentence, I think I'm totally aligned with the spirit of it. So, but I will challenge the way you do the wording. Is technology professional is something that will not have sense very soon. It will be digital professionals that are tackling the business side or the delivery infrastructure and so on. But if you go in the digital economy, one of the things that are happening is that there's no barriers between technology and marketing and business development and so on. So is it desirable? It's totally necessary that any kind of professional is aligned with this view in any organization.
Yeah, it's understood. Yeah. Josep, when you launch a new digital service, new business model from an incumbent, in your experience, what is the best? To leverage existing services and processes, or to rethink from scratch?
It's always easier to design from scratches. It doesn't mean you will not leverage on your existing capabilities, not at all. It's highly desirable to do that, but you need to rethink the business model from scratches, because it gives you a hedge in the way you go to the market that you will not have if you don't take that approach. So one thing is not leveraging on the capabilities your company has. Another thing is not being able to build it from zero. And definitely you have an edge if you do that. This is my view, by the way. In the audience, there's many people that are professionals of this. I will invite them to give their opinion on this. So many of them good friends.
To take a whiteboard and repaint everything, right? From a client perspective, from a customer perspective, and then see. And then
Correct.
Yeah, great. Well, I mean, Josep, thank you very much for your presentation. I think it's been great.
Thanks very much. Apologies for the camera. I haven't been able to fix the camera issue, but I hope at least the presentation is well seen.
Wow,
I haven't bored you too much.
I mean, it's been very insightful. I guess that is I mean, you're in. I assume, right, that somehow COVID has helped you, all you guys that are working in digital in these big companies, big insurance companies. In the end, the acceleration of digital has helped you to better, so that the whole management better understand the implications and the sort of challenges that they will come ahead, right? And the importance of digital. I assume that does it.
Definitely. There's one big question on the table right now is when what will happen when we go back to normal. But my assumption, and I think it's there's a high degree of consensus, is that a high percentage of the change of the digitization of the economy will remain after this. So that implies that essentially is the use of digital channels for purchases and development of digital products and digital interactions. And it's been really transformational for everybody. It's happening in many industries.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing the challenge that you are facing, and well, I congratulate you for all this great work that I'm sure you are doing. So thank you very much.
Well, let me tell you just one last thing. For those in the audience, I'm a good friend of the Outvise team, and I know that today is Pau's birthday. So happy birthday, Pau!
Thank you. That's true. That's true. We're getting older. Thank you very much, Josep. It's my birthday today. Yes.
Okay. Take care.
So thank you very much again. Super presentation, and hope we continue in touch, and yeah, and let's see how it goes. Yeah. Okay. Ciao.